I am Rebecca Levitan. I am the president of the Schools, Centers, Synagogues, and Public Libraries Division of the Association of Jewish Libraries. I'm a public librarian with Baltimore County Public Library in Baltimore, Maryland. And we wanted to give everyone kind of a chance to let everyone talk about how they're feeling, what they're doing, what's happening, and maybe some positive steps we can take to sort of deal with all this. But at the moment we mostly just want to give everyone a chance to just their spleen a bit. So I will turn it over to Aviva and let her take the next introduction. We'll go around the Zoom room for everyone to give a chance.
Right. Hi, I'm Aviva Rosenberg. I'm the Youth Services Librarian at the Ridgefield Public Library in Ridgefield, New Jersey. I'm the Vice President of the School, Synagogue, Centers, and Public Libraries Division of AJL. And yeah, I think that's all we're saying right now, right? All right. I'm just going to add somebody from the waiting room. Right, Sally, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure. I'm Sally Stieglitz. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Association of Jewish Libraries News and Reviews, and I work at Long Island Library Resources Council. I work with public librarians, including a few familiar faces that are here today. So I just wanted to listen in to hear how I could support.
What is the Long Island Library Resources Council? What do you do that's different from being a straight up public librarian or an administrator? Like what
we don't deal with any patrons. We have no patrons. Librarians are our patrons. New York State set up 9 councils to serve all types of libraries, and they're regional. So I'm the library one. Also, Lil Rick is our rap name. So look for us wherever you get your music.
Yeah, my library system goes by Buckles, so.
Right. So we're not exactly a system. Nobody knows what we are. Ask Michelle. She doesn't know what we are.
We go to you to look for jobs.
You can. That's our most popular page, Eitan, right?
I'm not saying that I go to that site every day, but
I'm not saying you don't. We do track the traffic, but no personal information. Yeah, so we do continuing education programs. Sometimes I send them out through the Hasafran listserv. I do a lot of Jewish programming. Michelle contacts me all the time with good suggestions for authors. We have a couple of more coming up. I do as much Jewish programming as I can until the day they say to me, what's with all the Jewish programming? That hasn't happened. So maybe it'll happen one day. I don't know. It could be tomorrow. But so let somebody else introduce themselves.
All right. Beth, how about you? Would you like to say hi?
Oh, sure. I just put some moisturizer on my hands, so let me now handle my mouse. Hi, I'm Beth Gallego. I'm a children's librarian with the Los Angeles Public Library. I write occasional reviews for the Sidney Taylor Schmooze and for the AJL newsletter, and I have 3 books currently on my nightstand that I need to get reviews in for. Yeah, that's about it for me.
Okay, thanks. Michelle, would you like to introduce yourself?
I think Michelle might be frozen.
She might be. Michelle, we'll come back to you. Mildred, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mildred Bernstein, retired from New York State, but I do work part-time in 2 different library places. Most recently as a substitute at Hop Hog Library, and I'm the part-time interlibrary loan librarian at Nassau BOCES. I've been a member of Long Island Association of Jewish Libraries for many, many, many years. I was looking through their stuff and I didn't see this, but a friend of mine had gotten Sally's email and forwarded to me, thinking that maybe it would be something I might be interested in, being a part of. I don't know if there's anything else. I live on Long Island. And Lil Rick is like just besides a great place to look for jobs, it's a great it's a plethora of information. I just need to throw that out because I count on them for so many things. There's just so many resources there that they're just really a great place to have a connection. I'm also a board member on the Smithtown Library Board. Just got nominated in January, and I've been doing this since January. Okay. There's personal stuff I could share, but that's my professional stuff.
Nice to meet you. And obviously I need to check out this Long Island Library Resources Council page one day.
Come by us.
Seems
And Michelle's unfrozen now, I just want to say. I
great.
think.
So Michelle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Can't hear her.
Michelle, you don't seem to have volume. All right, take your time. We'll go to Eitan and then we can come back to you, Michelle.
Hi, I'm Eitan, as Rebecca just said. I am a young adult librarian at the East Hampton Library, and I live on Long Island in Patchogue. The most relevant information was that I got to scare Neil Patrick Harris last night at our haunted library. Yeah, we turned our library into a haunted library, and I got a text message like a couple minutes before that Neil Patrick Harris and his family were coming through, and I was face to face with Neil Patrick Harris last night for.
I need to hear every detail.
I ran across a hallway in front of him, and I definitely didn't make an awkward face at him when I realized it was him. And I might have scared one of his kids. So
which one?
That's really awesome.
Yeah. All right, that's pretty cool.
All right, Danica, I see that you are here. Would you like to introduce yourself? Okay, I'm assuming you're getting a drink or something. So with that, now that we've kind of introduced ourselves to whoever's here, basically, just do people want to take a few minutes to talk about how they're feeling, what they're experiencing with customers, fellow coworkers, anything that you just feel you need to share right now, just so that you know that you have a safe space of supportive people who are probably on the same boat with you if you want to share something. You are not allowed to be unmuted. All right, I'm going to work on that. Let me see. All right. I can kick us off a little bit. Since people are very shy at the moment. I sent out an email and customers work. Yeah. So I send out a monthly email to my coworkers because I work in Pikesville, which is a heavily Jewish area. And I sent out a monthly email to my coworkers letting them know like what's happening in the Jewish calendar and why things might be crazy or not crazy depending on what's happening. And so with Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, I sent out an email letting them know sort of what the Baltimore Jewish community itself was doing and feeling and reacting to what was going on in Israel. And I had a few people post won't allow participants to unmute themselves. All right, I'll get it. I had a few people who, let me know that they had, thoughts and, they were thinking about what was going on and hoped I was okay. And actually my parents just made Aliyah in August, so that was super funsies. But I got a lot of quiet from everybody. And it's been an interesting experience to sit in my corner and sort of wonder what everybody else is thinking. So that's me, but I would love to hear from anybody else if anyone feels like sharing.
Yes.
I guess I'll go next. I do think I just changed the settings to allow people to unmute themselves, so hopefully that will work out. So I work in a town in New Jersey where there's like it's extremely diverse, but there's not really a Jewish community to speak of. But it's very close to and in the same library system as several very large towns with very significant Jewish communities, including Teaneck and Bergenfield, and Fair Lawn, and also a few towns that kind of fly under the radar they have very large Israeli communities specifically. But people mostly don't know that unless they're like around here. But these libraries like have large Hebrew book collections and stuff like that, which is very interesting. But anyways, I don't know. When things happen, my boss did text me, and then my coworkers have mostly been very sympathetic. But otherwise, like nothing's really come up directly, except for the fact that there's a large Muslim community in the town where I work, mostly Turkish. And there's a few people that I haven't seen around in a while, and I don't know if they're like avoiding me or just like not, they just haven't come to the library lately. But the one thing that kind of like got me anxious was that last Friday, so I'm very involved in the diverse and underserved populations committee for my library system. I've been doing that for the last couple of years, and like I find it a lot of fun. Like it's a cool group of people, and like I think we do good work. But last Friday, somebody from that committee emailed the group saying we should create some kind of resource list for Palestinian Americans, who are going through a tough time right now. And I kind of like, first I sat down on a stool in the kitchen and freaked out because it was like 2:00 on a Friday afternoon and I needed to like finish making Shabbos and pick up my kids from daycare and stuff like that. And it was like not a good time for me to have to think hard about anything. But I also was, kind of insulted that she put it straight to, only Palestinians are the ones who are going through a tough time right now. And everybody there knows that I'm Jewish. Like I'm part of this group. They all know it. And then also, like I said, this area, like this service area is one of the biggest Jewish communities in the country. We can't put out a resource for one half of this conflict without inviting, like, people in Teaneck have no chill. If they had put out some kind of thing like in support of Palestinians, people would have freaked out. It would go to the media. Like this would not be a small thing. Like they would get a lot of negative attention for it. Besides for the fact that like, the obvious reason of like, this isn't that one-sided of a situation to begin with. So people responded with like kind of a mix of, oh yeah, we should totally do that. This is something that falls under our purview. A couple of people did say something like, oh, we should provide like information or resources for like everyone involved in this conflict. And one or two people, including the one Muslim member of this group, said something about focusing on people instead of governments. But then also one person was like, oh, I have a Jewish friend who's very involved in like, peace organization of some kind. I can find out from them what they recommend. And I was like, I'll eat my tichel if it's not Jewish Voice for Peace that you're talking about. But basically I had a slight cow. I talked to Rebecca and a couple of other book/library friends, like trying to like calm down because I was freaking out. And I ended up emailing the chair people of the committee who are one of them used to work in a Jewish day school. So we're like kind of buddies over that. I was like, I need help. Like, I can't really deal with responding to this right now, but like, I need you to know that like people in Bergen County, like Jews in Bergen County, Israelis in Bergen County are not okay. And that they would take something that was one-sided as like an insult, and that they would also probably end up getting a lot of negative press. Like, that's just what would happen. I'm being realistic. That's what would happen. And so they were very sympathetic and understanding. And what one of them ended up responding to the committee was like, well, what do you envision this resource looking like? And nobody's really responded since then. I don't know if it was because it was Friday afternoon and their enthusiasm fizzled, or if they realized like there wasn't really like, what did they really mean? Maybe they weren't really sure what they were thinking of providing. So right now I'm just like waiting on that to like come up again. And yeah, I don't know. I wasn't sure if I should say something directly myself. And by the time I got to work on Monday, I was like, whatever, nobody's been talking about it. I'm just going to leave it for now. but yeah, I was like, and this is something I said to the chair people of the committee, like, I feel like the entire Jewish community of Bergen County's like needs and emotions are on my shoulders right now in terms of like what we do or don't do. And on the one hand, this all feels very small, but like on the other hand, it felt very big to me because like this is what I do, and this is like I'm like the lone voice here, and so that was a lot of anxiety. Thankfully, nothing's come of it, but like that was a really big deal. So yeah, anybody else have a thing happen of any sort?
I just have to comment on the fact that she said, I'm going to talk to my friend, completely ignoring the fact that perhaps there was a resource right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean,
I'm not sure what to make of that. Like, I'm not sure if this person doesn't realize that I am the token Jew because she's joined the committee a little bit more recently. But I also like did a whole infographic for like the staff of the system about the Jewish high holidays like a month ago. Like that went out to every person who has a Buckles email address, explaining about like what these holidays are and how it might affect people's schedules and how it might affect your patrons and stuff like that. And like maybe don't say Happy Yom Kippur to people. So like I don't know if she just wasn't thinking or if I don't know. I don't think she meant anything by it, but like I think it was just pure cluelessness. But yeah, like you'd think somebody would have like thought of that. I don't know.
You don't think she meant your opinion? We want somebody's opinion who's
Right. No, I don't think she meant that. I think she was just like, oh, I have an idea. I know a person, because that was the first one that came into her head. I think that's what she was doing, but like you're right that it was like a little like I'm right here.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There hasn't been much where I work. Danica and I both work for Los Angeles Public and are part of the Jewish Affinity group there. And we sort of had to prod our administration to send any sort of acknowledgement about what was going on. The head of our let me try that one again. Our city librarian and assistant city librarian send out these weekly emails to everybody. It started during COVID when we were all out of the building, and it has just continued. And I'm honestly not sure that there would have been anything in the email that went out the Friday immediately following the 7th if we hadn't sent something to them, because what was printed in the letter was pretty much the statement that we sent, which was very, very soft, I guess maybe is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, it's just been very, very strange. I'm not really part of a Jewish community here. Yeah, thank you, Danica. In fact, I just started going to a local Reform temple. And so it's sort of been, I'm like, oh, I'm alone. Just alone over here. I post a thing on Facebook saying, please do not watch these videos that they're threatening to release that first week. And I get a message from a former friend of, but what about? And that's why she's blocked.
Yeah, I know I can speak for myself and probably Aviva, and I can bet for other people we've all been like blocking and unfollowing people on social media and just kind of really disappointed to see who's posting what.
Yes.
That's a really crappy feeling.
I mean,
can I just say,
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Some of those people are Jewish in the Jewish Kindle community, and I'm really upset about it. Yeah. Rebecca, care to address?
I mean, I don't have much to address other than I've definitely unfollowed and blocked a lot of people.
I don't know how people could be, that we've nurtured, and it really discourages
For what
me.
it's worth, I feel like a lot of the people who have been like the Jewish ones, the Jewish authors, Killit people saying things that have been like upsetting, I feel like they're not necessarily so involved in like that Jewish kidlit community. I think a lot of them are the ones who are, maybe they have a more independent career, maybe they have a more elaborate career and don't feel like they need it, like the extra connection or support. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of them are the ones who are not as involved otherwise. And I don't know,
I'm not
maybe that's
on
an
the,
unfair thing to say, but like
yeah.
people who are being like, oh yeah, not in my name, like ceasefire now.
I mean, I'm glad I'm not on an awards committee, because you could have a fantastic book and say, oh, they said this is fine. They asked for it, you know? And then how do you give an award to somebody who posted that, you know?
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of people that I'm like, I'm glad they don't have a book this year, so I don't have to like try not to judge. There's definitely been a couple of those. I can't think off the top of my head who, but that has definitely happened. For the record, I'm the chair of the Sidney Taylor Committee right now, and Eitan is on the committee, so he's got a lot of fun stuff to deal with this time around. Good times.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, my library workplace has been fine for the most part. Like when it was happening, my supervisor, my coworkers, some of them were asking me like, oh, how are you feeling? How are you doing? You doing okay? I'm like, no, but my director hasn't asked me how I'm feeling, which is, I think, kind of par for course with him. But Bookstagram has been a dumpster fire. Like I know Rebecca and Aviva have been seeing a lot on there. And I'm also in a Jewish Bookstagram group chat. And we're all just sharing things from authors, from Bookstagrammers. Oh, it's like it was funny. Before October 7th, I was getting close to like, I just passed like 7,900 followers on Instagram, and now I'm down to like 77 something. So that's great. There's this one Bookstagrammer slash author who had 6K before October 7th and is now up to 215,000 because they're tokenizing themselves. So that's been great. And yeah, like a bunch of authors it's been very disheartening seeing some Jewish authors post and share things. Yeah.
I mean, I saw it happened in 2021 too, and it's just even more intense now. I mean, there's people who their names are burned in my brain from 2021 that no. How about no?
It's infuriating to see people like doing this for like street cred and like mileage or whatever. Like, don't say anything. Like, everyone would rather that you shut up and talk about like what you're actually here to do, and not like turn this into like your opportunity to like be famous. That's like one of the most obnoxious things about that kind, like people tokenizing themselves and being like, oh well, I'm the good Jew. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's disgusting, honestly.
Actually, can I share a good thing though? Which is
Yes,
that
please.
on the flip side of the dumpster fire of Instagram is that I have been finding the Instagram accounts now that I want to follow. I learned about the Jewish Women Talk About Romance Books group on Facebook, and there's a thread in there. And my friend Melissa from BBYO, when we were in high school, and now she's on the East Coast and I'm in California, is in there. And so there, she started a thread of, hey, do you have a Bookstagram? Would you like some love? And so it's been excellent. So like my whole feed now is Jewish books.
Yeah, there's a few Jewish romance fans in this room right now, so
I'm a unique romance fan.
Mm-hmm. Danica and Michelle, now that we can like see you and hopefully you can unmute. Do you want to say hi, introduce yourself, share some thoughts?
I can unmute now. It's
Hi.
amazing. It's IT 101.
Can you hear me?
Just turn it all off and it'll come back on.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm Danica.
Hey, Michelle. Yep. All right.
Hi, I'm
Am I
Danica
speaking?
Sheridan, and I'm
Yep.
I'm the YA library. I'm a YA teen librarian over at the Silver Lake branch in Los Angeles, and I have to say, you know, the just to stay on the positive note is I was kind of half in, half out of the Jewish Affinity group in the library department, and then people started talking about how they felt, and because I am not Jewish religiously, but I am Jewish culturally, and you know, it's my race, and it's how I was raised, and my family's all from New York and, you know, Lakewood, New Jersey and whatnot. So, and I have people in Israel, distant, you know, people, but it was amazing. It was wonderful to be already a member of the affinity group when this happened and have people to talk to and talk with. And the silence is deafening on my personal Facebook group, but also, yeah, at work. And so somebody had shared another post from Facebook from some an outside friend of hers, and I sent it to my staff and I just like, I said, this is a really great way to explain how I feel right now. And it was about how silent people are being. And one person responded on staff, and he's the other Jew. And it just was unbelievable. A couple days later, I had two other people like just briefly say thank you for sharing. But yeah, and so the book list came out from you guys, like through our affinity group. Somebody posted all the resources from your website with the books to read for kids and teens and all of that, and the books about Israel and the books for non-Jews. And anyway, I printed them all, put them in a bright yellow binder, and left it on the reference desk. And it's like these little tiny triumphs. And my boss saw it. She didn't say anything. She didn't say no. So hopefully it'll still be there Monday. That's what's going on.
Thanks, Danica. Michelle, did you want to chime in?
Okay, let's try. Hi, can you hear me? Good. You hear me or no? Okay, good. Hi. So I am a middle school librarian on Long Island. I've come to you from Sally. I am part of her Long Island Library Resource Council, and Sally will be happy. Last summer, Sally invited a man, his name is Brad Kolodny, who is a historian and has put together a few books, The Synagogues of Long Island, The History of the Jews of Long Island from 1705 to, I believe it's 1917. And he is starting a brand new museum. He actually put together an exhibit that was housed at the Long Island Holocaust Museum, and now it's going to get a permanent place starting next week. And so he came after I met him through a program with Sally, we did a field trip of both our temples this summer to the Holocaust Museum on Long Island. And this morning he came and spoke to my temple about his book. And it was really interesting. So with everything going on, I think that that was definitely a really positive experience for all of us to learn about the first Jews who came here, starting, before the American Revolution, and all of the impacts that they have made on Long Island, and the history of some of the synagogues. And he's actually been very involved with getting those historic markers of synagogues all over Long Island. So I think that he's gotten 4 already with his group, and they're actually also working on a database of Holocaust memorials all over the world. So, every town probably has a memorial, and they want to put it to a database so that if you travel to where I live in Melville, we have a park with an Anne Frank memorial right in a little park. So he's also working on that. And I think that that's a positive note I wanted to say after, all of this negativity. I'm in a a middle school with a very, very small population of Jewish teachers and Jewish students. And my amazing principal, who is Puerto Rican and a Hispanic background, when this first started, I went and spoke to him because I actually said, a lot of people don't even realize a connection between Israel and Jewish people living on Long Island, or they think, oh, you're Jewish and you live on Long Island, you don't have any relatives in Israel, or you might not know anyone. And I had to just explain to him that all of us know someone who's there, that I did tell him about some of the teachers who have come to me, and we've kind of all like came together, and he was so happy. He's like, thank you so much for explaining this to me, because I don't want to sound like I don't know, but not everyone really understands the relationship and the feeling that we have. So the next day at our faculty meeting, he actually made a statement, and he said, we stand with Israel and we are here to support you and anything that you need. And if you're feeling like you don't want to teach, or if you need some time out, let us know. So I think that that was really important. I think communication is important. Um, you know, I think it's really difficult because I think that we're all, and when I say we're all, obviously there's many Jewish people that don't always see eye to eye, but a lot of what we're sharing is that we're preaching to the choir a little bit. A friend sent me something last night. And I'm sure you all saw this, about that they were, the Iranians want to boycott the Jews, but if they boycott the Jews, they're going to get syphilis and all of the things that we've done, and they can't talk on their cell phone. Did you all see this one that's been going around? Oh, yeah. So it's just all of the things that Jews have done over the years, and all of the medical um, attributes and everything that we've actually done for science and medicine and technology. So if you're going to boycott Israel, you might as well just boycott everything, and you're going to die because you're going to be diseased and everything. And it was like the 10th time that I received it that week. And I said, it's really funny that we're just we're circulating the same things among ourselves. We're preaching to the choir. I'm telling you, you're telling me. And I actually spoke about this today, and Brad said that he felt the same way. And then he started to post on LinkedIn, which is his professional um, social media. And there were a lot more non-Jewish people that he is connected to through LinkedIn. And that's where he started. He actually got a lot of supportive remarks, but I know that not everyone is. And, it's a really tough time, because I have to say, depending on what news station I'm listening to, my heartstrings are pulled in different ways. If Fox is on, you're like, wow, everyone's pro Israel. When you're on CNN, I was like, oh my gosh, the poor Palestinians, we're, destroying them. And the media is doing that to me, who gets it. Think of all the people that are watching the media and the news, and seeing everything, and how different the perspective is. And they might not be Jewish. They might not know anyone who's Jewish. Um, they might already have negative feelings towards Jews, and they're seeing this. They're hearing what the secretary of the UN had to say, and that's what's really tough. That we feel like we're here by ourselves a little bit.
Yep. I hear you completely.
And on the topic of the news, like as a information professional, the whole like media literacy aspect of this has been actual, like, it's been torture. Seeing people, like, you know, when that Gaza hospital was first hit, and I saw, like, you know, in my Google News feed, you know, New York Times was posting whatever, like, they, you know, appears to have been this, like, is everyone's claiming Israel did that, and then, like, gradually, like, cutting back on that until they're finally like, oh wait, we don't know who really did it, and then, like, a lot of, oh, there's evidence in different directions, and then all of a sudden they're finally like, yeah, probably was not Israel. And watching that happen in real time was like that was so painful, because like they're literal professionals, like they're people that they're someone that most people trust. Like I know a lot of people who don't like the New York Times, and I get why, but like, just, and the amount of misinformation that people are running around spouting, um without any kind of actual knowledge or research is just, it's so horrible to watch, and it's so hard to take, because like, you know, there was like, are any of you in the like ALA think tank group on Facebook? Because somebody posted like right back like a day or two after things happened, asking for like, oh, like, I'd like to educate myself, what are some resources you would recommend for like news and information? And people said Al Jazeera.
So fast.
Somebody says Al
I saw that.
Jazeera is a good unbiased source, and I was like, in what planet? Like, how, seriously? Like, I get that we might disagree on certain books and things like that, but like, Al Jazeera was your unbiased source? Are you out of your mind? And like, other people too, I was like, it's one thing if you're just like some schmo in a college group saying bonkers things, like posting of, like, somebody posted a meme of like a map of from 1947 or something that came from, apparently from National Geographic, that had the word Palestine written over it, and it was, somebody was like, oh look, it doesn't say Israel. I was like, yeah, there's a reason for that. Like, you can't take that picture like without any kind of context. Like, nobody was claiming that there was a state of Israel in 1947. There wasn't a state of Palestine either. But like, and when I commented something along those lines, like pointing out that like, this is like, you know, like purely from an information literacy perspective, like that's a very misleading image and caption or whatever post, the person was like, ha ha ha, like post like unhinged, like laughter kind of response. And that's making me insane. Like, and the problem is, it's so hard to point to like a source that could be considered unbiased and say, no, this is the actual truth. This is the actual history here. Because yeah, it is complicated, but in some ways it also isn't. Like, there's stuff like all these debates about like who's indigenous and who's like, you know, who's the colonizer and who's the genocider and things like that is because like, it's a matter of historical, archaeological, etc., genetic record that Jewish people come from that area. Like, that's not any kind of question. But the fact that people run around saying things as if that is, or as if they know better, or as if they know anything at all, is like it. I've had like a permanent headache for the last 3 weeks.
I have so much respect for those of you who can actually answer those things and attempt to educate people, because I can't. I ran away from that post so fast. I saw it cross my thing. It is hard enough. I have a friend who actually just posted something asking, oh, what do you all think about If Not Now and JVP? And I'm like, oh, I can't. So I'm just sitting back, and I waited till one of her other friends responded with pretty much my opinion on those two. And I'm just like, and then I saw some responses to the person who I blocked, so I can't actually see their post because apparently she took exception to what he said. I can't.
Yeah,
What is
I also
JVP?
don't get into this. JVP is Jewish Voices for Peace. I'm putting their website in the chat. They're very pro-Palestine, and people seem to be tokenizing them a lot.
They're very like, we are the good Jews. That's kind of how they're trying to set themselves up as like the good Jews who, you know, support all the right causes, that kind of thing, so that people will. It's kind of tragic, honestly. Like, after reading People of Dead Jews by Dara Horn, I started mostly just feeling really bad for people who feel like they have to, you know, be the good Jews in order to protect themselves, because that's really what it is. Like, whether or not they comprehend it, that's what they're doing. And it's insane, and it's annoying and kind of dangerous for the rest of us. But like, I also just feel bad for them, because that's where it comes from.
They think it will protect them.
Yeah.
And
Well, I pass, I keep explaining to people, I'm like, nobody passes better than I do. And I don't belong to a temple because I don't, practice a religion. They're going to come and find me too. I mean, I'm on lists.
It's David Baddiel's Jews Don't Count. That's exactly what it is. This is what he talks about. He's like, it doesn't matter how religious you are, or how, they're gonna hate you either way. Sadly.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a good Jew or bad Jew. People just want dead Jews.
Yep.
That's the sad truth. And what's been most amazing is that there are people that think they've researched enough within the past 2 weeks to be able to say something, when people have been researching this and studying this for years. And there's a really great Instagrammer, Roots Metals, who does fantastic work creating amazing infographics, well researched, with resources.
And she cites her sources up one side and down the other. That's why I like her.
Yeah,
no shortage of sources quoted there. She's the real.
Yeah, no, she's amazing, and like, she's like my go-to source. Like, if people start messaging me about things, I'm like, no, just go to Roots Metals. Like, just read all of their posts.
Did you all hear what happened at Cornell University?
Yeah.
Have you heard about that? Yeah. So my friend's daughter is there, and she actually sent me, a letter went out immediately from the president, very supportive of the Jewish community. So that did go out, that the FBI is involved in everything, but police, they've done everything.
Which college is this from?
Cornell.
Okay, but did you hear about the one with they had to lock themselves in the library a couple of days ago?
That's Cooper Union.
Cooper Union. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, when they came in, they were going to check your political views before they decided to hurt you. So they were like, "Are you a good Jew?" They were not. I'm just joking. They don't care.
Yeah, but the one at Cornell said, "Go find a Jew and slit their throat." Yeah.
Oh, it was a whole, I saw part
Who
of it,
said
and
that?
I know that there was more, and I'm like, nope, don't need those nightmares, thanks.
So out of curiosity, those of you in LA, you have a Jewish affinity group. I was just curious, like, how large is it? Do you guys meet in person? Do you guys meet online? What kind of things? Because we have some affinity groups in Baltimore County, but not a Jewish one, and I don't know that I could collect enough people for it. So I'm just curious for your experience.
So I didn't know anything about it until I actually went to one of the AJL meetups at ALA a couple of years ago, and someone came up to me and was like, "Oh, are you in the affinity group?" Because there were a bunch of LEPL people there, and I'm like, "I'm sorry, the what now?" So we meet on Zoom, and it's been actually really, really good. That's actually how I heard about the particular Reform temple that I've been going to the last few weeks. So
just to give you guys some context, I mean, it started because it was left out of the I don't know what REAB stands for, but REAB,
racial equity, board. Yeah,
so there were these affinity groups during the pandemic, I guess. They were created maybe just before that. And, Asian Americans and African Americans and LGBT, and I believe there's some others. And people, there was a call for people to ask for certain groups and etc. And my understanding is there was never a Jewish affinity group until Tina Lerno, one of our colleagues, was like, hello. And she said, I'm starting one. And she just, started sifting through the contact list or whatever, the staff directory, and reached out to every Jew she knew, at all levels. It's really interesting. We have some, I don't know if she's a division head, but yeah, and we have somebody in PR who joined. Now, not everybody may be Jewish. I know somebody in my branch is part of it, and she's not Jewish, but I believe her husband's family is. And it's just, and it's been great. And we've had some pushback from other groups, like from other people, like, like we were talking, like Beth mentioned about our system not mentioning anything until we gave them a little couplet to put out, and they didn't even edit it or add their own words. The administration has been practically silent. But yeah, rattling cages. And so the teams for the order sheet, it's really interesting. So we for the young adult ordering, we have diverse voices is always one of the order sheets. And the diverse voices, Jewish voices came out, and we had all the Holocaust books, of course, but then there were books not written by Jews. There were books that were inaccurate. It was just like, where did you guys get this list? And honestly, it was awesome because we had this little affinity group, which is not so little anymore, but we were able to just like send the lists to the right people and then we got an apology from the acquisitions people who put this list together. And then, yeah, I don't know if the website's been updated yet. That book, that resource is not very current, but we did something right away with, and we all got our own lists to, but yeah, it is really, and it didn't surprise anybody because, we're Jews. We know that. And yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, but yeah, there's also some big other things going on, like the Christmas tree. I was just gonna say the Christmas tree.
Yeah, I think I remember Tina mentioning it on our last meetup.
Yeah, she did. And the funny thing is, we were all like, oh yeah, dealing with like Christmas in the library should be like our next big, like the AJL Public Librarians project. And now I'm like, we have bigger fish to fry. Like Christmas is like whatever, dude. It's like you can have another year before we tackle that particular problem. I will say, this is me again hawking AJL a little bit. Like we do, like between Sydney Taylor and the other lists and resources on the AJL website, like maybe what we need to keep working on is maybe like if people have recommendations for Israel related books. I mean, I'm a children's librarian, so I'm always thinking in terms of kids books, picture books, chapter books, whatever. And I know that like there's like one of these love your neighbor lists on the AJL website that the person who created it, Heidi, is in the process of expanding into like a greater Israel book list. If anybody has a book to recommend, definitely say something there, because the funny thing is I remember a bunch of books from like the 90s that were actually pretty good, and they're just all out of print now and you can't really get hold of them, which is unfortunate because yeah. And other conversations we've had are about how hard it is to get an Israel book published these days at all without it being loaded with like apologetics, if that. Even then, like it could be loaded with apologetics and somebody will still get up on Goodreads before it's published and like have a cow. It's really stupid. But yeah, this is, yeah. I don't know, Rebecca, you shared the Google Doc with the list that Hadassah made? Or sorry,
yeah,
Michelle.
I shared the
Michelle
Google
made.
Doc. Michelle made. That's sort of a running list of academic and non-academic sources of like positive sort of Israel stuff. Also like
explanations of the situation kind of thing.
Yeah.
which, you know, not Al Jazeera.
Right. And like Aviva said, the Love Your Neighbor list that's on the AJL website is getting expanded so that there are more things that we can share. But again, there's only so much we can expand if there aren't the books out there.
Yeah, although I think in the future, when we finally have like the brain space and everything to tackle stuff like this, I do think putting together resources about like holidays in the library for, you know, people who don't do mainstream things, or just in general, like being more accommodating, might be a project we'd want to collaborate on. Or, and the other, so Sally, I bet you think you've already got all these like speakers and things, like programs that you've organized. But like how to do Jewish holidays or Jewish programs in the library for different ages, that might be again a resource that we could try to collaborate on.
Yeah.
Because
Just saying that, Rebecca.
like I've seen people try to be like, oh, we'll make like a menorah or whatever for Hanukkah, and like that's cool, but like you also have to be able to, you know, read the right books and say the right things and like point people to the right places and make things the right way. So I work only on Sundays at the Teaneck Library, which, like I said, massive Jewish community. And so what the head children's librarian there does ask me things about what, like if she wants to do a program. Like the last year they had this whole like year of holidays thing where they were trying to cover like all the holidays from all the cultures. And she actually came to me about Rosh Hashanah and like what would be a good craft and stuff to go with that. And so I was able to give her ideas for something that were like appropriate, but like also useful for everyone. Because like I'm not gonna say like go make a mezuzah, but like make a tzedakah box, make a honey dish, that kind of thing.
Tell her it's always matzah. The supermarket tells you it's always matzah.
Right, with pork. Topped with ham.
Ham and cheese on matzah. No, wait.
So yeah, so something to that kind of thing is something I'd like us to think about as like the public librarian, you know, arm of the Jewish librarians. I don't know, that things that we can do. It just, for Israel, it's just so much more complicated because you have to dance around everybody's feelings and you have to dance around the things that everybody else thinks they already know. And it's so disappointing.
Well, this conflagration between a government and a people has been infuriating to me. I had my teen council yesterday, and nobody had any idea. Nobody's talking about what's going on in their classes. I mean, I only had 5 kids show up, but it was a good discussion that we had, and luckily it wasn't too emotional or both sidesing, or I didn't have any activists, activist teens. Sometimes we do, and they were just like, they weren't really getting it, the separation between the Jewish people and this particular governmental body making decisions. Are they're outside like the threat to the Jewish people and being angry at the Israeli government are 2 totally separate things that are connected. Well, they're not totally, I mean, they're connected, of course, but there's a different perspective. And to make this about, killing all Jews or subjugating Jews all over the world, and et cetera, and this stuff happening on college campuses, it is, I mean, well, 5 teens know something different now. So.
And hopefully those 5 teens go tell 5 more teens and it spreads. I'm going to say that I know a lot of us need to move on with our evenings, and I hope that this was at least a useful bit of time, somewhat cathartic. We're gonna try and gather up again sooner than later. So, but you can always reach Aviva. You can always reach me. Our emails are at the beginning. If you have ideas, my son's behind me singing. If you have ideas of things that might be worthwhile to put out on behalf of AJL, if you're looking for support in any way, please know that there are other people in the same boat as you, and we're all in this together. So Aviva, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we close out, or anybody else?
I guess just, we'd like to, this is our second time doing a public librarians hangout, and we'd like to continue doing them in the future. So if people are okay with it, we'll kind of add you to our email list of people to contact directly, so that we can because right now this is kind of operating, so it's like under AJL, but we're being kind of chill about it because it's not always easy for public librarians to like get their own membership or whatever. But we want to keep this group going both for support and also because, like I said, if we can create resources together at some point that are relevant to public libraries. This is something that we haven't like done as an organization very much, and it would be nice to kind of, like it seems like there is a pretty clear need for Jewish public librarians to converse and also to share information, and it's really satisfying. Like the second time we've done it, and both times felt really good afterwards. So yeah,
thank you for doing it at 5 o'clock on a Sunday evening for those of us on the West Coast. It's great. I hope
thanks for taking the time.
Not too tired.
Yeah, and feel free to use kind of back channels to connect more friends and so on to this if you know other Jewish librarians, whether or not they're, in Jewish spaces or Jewish librarian spaces. Like there's definitely a need for support. Oh, and Beth, my very first, I started my current job in November. This is like my big story. I started my job in November, and they're like, okay, now you get to organize like the big Santa photograph session where Santa comes to the library. And I was like, huh? I had to like set up like a photo booth area with like there's a dude in town who would dress up as Santa, and like he would come and everyone would take pictures with him, and the librarian would set up like a winter wonderland like photo session thing with him, and they had these like elf cardboard cutout stand-up things that were terrifying. I was like, they were so scary. I got rid of them a year or two later and like bought a couple of inflatable reindeer that were at least cute. But like that being the very first public event that I ever had to organize as a public librarian was just like bonkers. And then a few months later, they were like, okay, now it's time for the Easter egg hunt. And I was like, I don't actually know what that means. I don't know what an Easter egg hunt is.
That was awesome.
And thankfully, my boss is actually very chill. Like she's a resident of this town. She's been doing all this stuff forever, but she like doesn't mind if I change things up. And so when I was like, "Can we just make it like a story walk with a spring book instead?" She was like, "Yeah, sure, totally fine." And I breathed a sigh of relief because like there's a lot of non-Christian people in my service area,
and there will be no shortage of Easter egg hunts to which they can go.
Yeah, the town does all this stuff. Oh my god, I have to set up a table always at the annual tree lighting in town. Like I said, because it's like the one place that I can actually like expose the library to the community. And I'm always just standing there waiting for someone to be like, how come you're not singing along? Yeah.
No, Sally, the Chametz hunt is when all my customers come in March and April and are like, I was cleaning and I brought my books back. They're 17 weeks overdue. All right. Thank you all so much for your time and for being here. It really does mean a lot to us to have other faces here. Please be in touch, and we hope to see you again, probably sooner than later. Have a wonderful night, and I hope everybody stays okay. All right.